5 battle pets, all in the star state, emerged with the most daunting auras. There was a dragon, a demon, an elemental pet. The dragon had deep red scales with multiple and sharp horns. It was magnificent and looked like a true T-Rex. The demon was enshrouded in a black fog that seemed even darker than the tertiary space. It reeked of the stench of death. The elemental pet was a golden tortoise that had sharp blades on its turtle. The blades looked like the fins on the backs of sharks and were very sharp. Once the pets were summoned, the red-haired young man also activated his constitution. Red stripes appeared on his skin as if his body were ablaze. He turned into a burning man, and his eyes were filled with golden flames. The fire by his elbows looked like roaring wings. "Merge!" the red-haired young man roared. The red-scaled dragon which had unleashed her explosive aura let out a roar. Although sounds couldn't be transmitted, the roar echoed in Sua Ping's head loud and clear, indicating that it wasn't just a sound but also a mental attack. After merging, the red-haired young man became even stronger. He became twice as tall, with dragon horns above his head. The flames on his skin were consolidated and covered him like lava, almost dripping. Seeing that the red-haired young man got serious, the old man and the woman didn't hesitate to summon their respective battle pets. The white-robed old man had 6 star-state pets, and so did the woman. The space was instantly filled up by star-state auras. When a dozen star-state creatures gazed at someone, they were enough to paralyze battle pet warriors below the star state. The star state creatures brutally looked down at Sua Ping. Sua Ping instantly became as insignificant as a grain of dust. 13. Sua Ping looked at the pets, 3 of which had merged with his enemies. So, 10 were left. Every star state pet was hundreds of meters tall, some even reaching 1,000 meters. There were smaller ones only dozens of meters tall, but they were just as strong. This is exactly why battle pet warriors are horrifying. The more advanced they are, the stronger they will be. Sua Ping thought. A battle pet warrior could hardly be defeated by a beast of their level. After all, they could summon multiple pets of the same level to outnumber their enemies. There's still time if you are willing to surrender and come with us. The old man who had just merged with a pet that looked like a giant toad had become fat, with green spots on his skin. It made him even uglier than before. He was so creepy that many people would be horrified after seeing him. Die! The black-haired woman was cold. Her hair turned into sharp sabers and her fingers were like hooks. There were spikes all over her body. The pet she had merged with seemed to be a plant. The black-haired woman charged at him as she talked, suddenly disappearing like a ghost would. Flashing in the tertiary space would require you to tear into the deeper 4th space. However, the 4th space was so dangerous that even star-state experts were hardly able to break into or survive it. The attempt could be very risky. Sua Ping slightly raised his eyebrows after she vanished, but he wasn't nervous. She didn't tear the 4th space open. Bang! He didn't look back, he simply turned around and punched at a certain place. A blast was heard close to Sua Ping's back, where the black-haired woman suddenly appeared. Her sharp claws were bounced back by Sua Ping's fist. There was shock on her cold face. She didn't expect that her secret technique would be seen through. The law she understood was part of the water class, which was called mirror. By using the law of mirror, she could project herself into any water drop that could reflect light and travel using reflections. It was almost like a flash movement. Such a flash depended on water elements. However, mirror was quite useful when moving in the tertiary space, where the normal flash was not optional. Even though there was no water there, the spatial torrents were everywhere. She had combined the law of mirror with the mysteries of space and created a technique named void stealth. It was a powerful assassination skill that she was really proud of. She could hide in space fragments, or travel among them. Such a secret technique even allowed her to kill peak star state experts if they were caught unaware. Moments earlier, she had pretended to attack in front, but Sua Ping saw it through and precisely predicted the place where she would appear. That was impossible. They had never met before, and they didn't know each other's methods. The odds of a successful assassination were quite high under such circumstances. Suo Ping remarked casually as he looked at the shock on the woman's face, "Why do you want to kill me so badly? Do you want to die?" He didn't stop acting while he talked. His sword appeared in his hand, and then he bent down and unleashed a strength boost and a super acceleration. Slash! He used several boosting skills related to the wind and lightning classes. They were the king-level skills able to accelerate them. His weight was almost reduced to 0 when used at the same time, and all the objects in his eyes were slowed down. Then, he pointed his sword upwards. A sword aura was drawn and accelerated halfway, cutting the target apart. PFF. Blood gushed out, and a piece of chin fell. The black-haired woman retreated at the critical moment, disappearing into the torrents of space and leaving nothing but the splashing blood. Suo Ping turned around and looked. He saw the woman staggering out of a space fragment hundreds of meters away. Her chin had been cut off and her blood was flowing. Her tongue was slipping out due to lack of the chin's support, which was quite horrifying. Her previously pretty face had instantly become hideous. Suo Ping was quite calm. He was slightly regretful for not managing to kill her with his attack, but he hadn't really tried his best anyway. After all, he hadn't merged with his pet yet. Is this the performance of the Star State level in the Federation? They are indeed much stronger than Naihuo Feng, and can probably kill him with ease. Suo Ping thought. Suo Ping had developed a deeper understanding of the Star State through all the battles against Star State beasts in the demigod burial and the communication with the Star State god warriors under Joanna's command as he made his way over to the battlefields. The Star State could be divided into 3 phases, namely the early, the middle and the advanced phases. The top of the advanced phase would be the peak, which was only 1 step away from the Star Lord State. To reach the mid-phase of the Star State you had to master at least 3 laws, or have a deep understanding of one specific law. As for the black-haired woman, Suo Ping felt that she was as strong as beasts in the mid-phase of the Star State. As for Naihuo Feng, he was probably in the early Star State phase. He was the weakest person in the Star State that Suo Ping had ever seen. Any of the Star State beasts in the demigod burial could have brutalized him. After all, the Star State beasts had absorbed natural divine power in the demigod burial and were much stronger than the Star State beasts outside. Even if that black-haired woman merged with her pet, she could hardly defeat early Star State beasts in the demigod burial. It seems that the battle techniques in the Federation aren't as powerful as I thought. Suo Ping made a simple conclusion based on the woman's attacks. The woman then began to move crazily, green fluids appeared and quickly covered her body, forming a sort of spiky armor which resembled a sea urchin. Suo Ping remembered the pet equipment once he saw the armor. He was quite surprised that the pet equipment could be used while in a fused status. The woman's eyes became dark after putting on the pet equipment, then she emitted a dense, dark energy. She looked even more mysterious and unpredictable. Body tissue grew and quickly formed a new chin. Rot in hell! The black-haired woman dashed and disappeared again. Then, she reappeared right on Suo Ping's left side. However, she also appeared on his right side before he even attacked. Following that, she was also behind, below, above, and ahead of him at the same time. She was everywhere. Each of the women was attacking using different techniques from different perspectives, making it impossible for Suo Ping to either counterattack or dodge. This is a remarkable battle technique. Suo Ping's eyes glittered. They weren't just normal clones, as they had been purely created by a battle technique. Rot in hell! The black-haired women dashed at him at the same time and extended their sharp blades at him. Their moves were as quickly as lightning, blocking all his retreats. Super acceleration. Suo Ping moved like a ghost and escaped from the encirclement. He completely activated his cells, lightning enveloped his feet and the rest of his body, and he threw a punch the moment he broke out of the circle. Divine energy. Dazzling golden light appeared on his fist. He used the low-level strength boost and the fist of Exorcist at the same time, as well as the battle technique he had tested in the demigod burial. It was a combination of laws and secret techniques. The power of annihilation and boom were entirely compressed on the fist. The waves of destruction contrasting with the dazzling golden light seemed so powerful that they could almost shatter the tertiary space. All the black-haired women turned around with shock in their eyes. The punch was so powerful that she found it impossible to resist, as if she were going against a planet. Swoosh! It was exactly at that moment a scorching streak of red light was shot close by. It was another fist aura, except that it was red-colored and looked like burning magma. The two enormous fist auras collided in midair. Although there wasn't any sound, the waves resulting from the explosion left everyone's heads humming. The blast was radiating like golden tides, shaking the audience. The fist auras gradually subsided, and both of the fist auras disappeared. The red-haired young man emerged in front of Suaping and said coldly, "Are you still not going to summon your pets? Show me what you're capable of." "Okay." Suaping raised his eyebrows after seeing that his Fist of Exorcist had been nullified. It was true that the second level of the Fist of Exorcist wasn't overly powerful, he could have probably finished them off easily if it would have already advanced to the third level. "Come on out." Whoosh! Whoosh! 3 vortices appeared. The little skeleton, the Inferno Dragon and the Dark Dragon Hound walked out of the swirls. While the purple python had a star state combat ability, it was probably only capable of fighting against Nihua Feng. After all, its level was too low, and it could hardly unleash all the power in the 3 laws. "Hey!" The red-haired young man became solemn when Suaping summoned the 3 pets, but then they were shocked once they gauged their cultivation. They particularly noticed Little Skeleton among the group of pets. Earlier on, they had seen from the satellite video that the skeleton had been caught in Randall's titanium cage. Having been unable to break free, Suaping had to go there to rescue his pet. It was impossible for such a pet to be at the star state. Then, why was it summoned? To get killed? As for the other 2 pets, they didn't feel star state pets either, but it was likely that they were under disguise. "Merge," Suaping said to himself. He simply merged with the Inferno Dragon, and his aura instantly became much more intimidating. Bones cracked in his body, he grew from 1.8 meters tall to about 2.5 meters. Scales and fangs also appeared. The warrior trio became senior upon seeing Suaping merging with his pet. Suaping had already shown an intimidating prowess with his fists techniques, resisting the red-haired young man's attacks without fusing with his pets. He would only be more horrifying after merging. Thick fluids surfaced on both the young man and the old man, it covered them, forming a primitive yet delicate armor. "Prepare to kill him." The red-haired young man grimly took out a spear, which was thick and red-colored. It hummed as if it were intelligent. His partners weren't taking things lightly, either, both took out their secret weapons. Suaping took a soft breath and cancelled the fusion. He didn't ask the little skeleton to merge with him again. He did this because he realized that his senses and his energy had already reached the maximum level. He could even feel how the pores of his 3 enemies were constricting. "I'll give it a go first." Suaping took out his sword. He would merge with the little skeleton if he couldn't finish off his enemies in his current status. Once again, he wanted to have a feel for what the Star State battle pet warriors in the Federation were capable of. His sword moved. His body followed. The law of boom created lightning bolts underneath his feet and fully activated the cells on his legs. Including the super acceleration, everything was slowed down in his eyes, as if they were completely still. He could clearly see the contracting pupils of his enemies and the shock found in them. Lightning prison, live or die. Suaping used the new sword technique he had created while in the demigod burial. It hadn't been perfected yet, but it was already powerful enough when he used it. The 3 laws he possessed had been condensed in the sword technique. Lightning and grey air entangled the sword, there was a crack in space as the sword aura was spread out. "Oh no!" The red-haired young man was the first to react. He noticed that Suaping was moving too fast, he was so swift that he could hardly be seen. Then, a horrifying sword aura was directed at him with much more energy. Shocked, he hurriedly summoned his pet, which was a golden turtle. A streak of golden light flashed into existence, a shield that looked like an eggshell appeared in front of the young man, followed by a golden turtle which turned out to be quite fast. The shield was broken in almost an instant, and the sword aura continued its path to cut the turtle's shell. The young man instantly saw the result, the shell had indeed been cracked. The sword aura had penetrated through the protections, leaving a gap several meters long, then dashed out from the other side of the golden turtle. The young man's pupils contracted, he quickly protected himself with a lava shield. The white-robed old man and his pet had concurrently released skills that contained the power of laws, but they were instantly obliterated by the sword's lightning. The sword aura didn't vanish and disappear until 3 skills in a row were destroyed. All 3 of them were quite shocked. The sword aura had pierced through the golden turtle, which had resisted almost 80% of the attack. Still, the remaining power was still too horrifying. The power of 3 laws was combined. He's close to the middle phase. The red-haired young man looked grim. He wouldn't feel scared if Suiping had only mastered 3 laws, but he had managed to fuse 3 laws in one technique, making it 5 to 8 times more powerful than any of the laws. Let's attack separately. The white-robed young man also realized what was going on. The former contempt shown on his face was soon discarded. He said solemnly, "He's alone, no matter how strong he is. Also, the power of 3 laws seems to be his limit. Pretend to attack him while I sneak up on him," said the black-haired woman. Their communication was telepathic. It would have been idiotic if they straight out told their target they were going to ambush him. The red-haired young man no longer dared to be cocky anymore. Suiping's previous attack had made him realize that he probably couldn't defeat Suiping in a duel. Acting tough was out of the question. They soon split up and attacked Suiping from 3 different positions. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a shadow flashed in front of the white-robed old man. It was the little skeleton. It moved like a ghost and slashed with its saber out the moment it appeared, forcing the old man to stop. Lightning surrounded the little skeleton's blade, which consisted of 2 laws. The old man would end up dead or heavily wounded if the attack landed. What the hell is this? The white-robed old man narrowly dodged the attack. He was shocked to find that it was the skeleton confronting him. He clearly remembered seeing on video that the pet had been imprisoned in the titanium trap. And yet, it was performing the power of laws? Such power of laws! It's the same as that guy's. How is it possible? Did he impart his knowledge to his pet? The white-robed old man was shocked by the thought. Not everybody was able to pass knowledge to pets. It was a highly sophisticated technique. More so, passing knowledge to pets usually required contracts, but most Star State warriors wouldn't easily impart knowledge to their pets even if they could, unless they shared a deep bond, or if they did so for their most important pets. Even though they could become stronger if their pets were stronger, there was still a chance of betrayal, which was a concern shared by a lot of battle pet warriors. This guy knows how to pass knowledge, and he has passed 2 laws to his pet. No wonder this skeleton is much stronger than before. The old man's expression changed, but soon he felt infuriated. I'm in a fused status, and yet he only sends a battle pet to stop me? Shift. The white-robed old man quickly made use of a strange law, which wasn't particularly destructive, but was quite effective for life-saving purposes. After he took action, a streak of green light dashed out and relocated the little skeleton to a point 10,000 meters away. Once he got rid of the skeleton, the white-robed old man charged at Suiping and simply ignored the pet from then on. Once Suiping died, the pet contracts would be gone and it would be easy to take care of them. However, a cold saber aura almost brushed past the old man's face when he moved forward again. The old man's pupils contracted and he looked back, only to find that the skeleton was already back, right next to him. How could the skeleton move 10,000 meters so quickly? But very soon, the white-robed old man noticed a short bone underneath the skeleton's feet that hadn't fully taken shape yet. Is it bone transformation, a secret technique of the undead? The white-robed old man instantly realized that the skeleton had left a bone as a medium before it was relocated. The bone transformation skill allowed it to reincarnate through its bone fragments and use them as platforms for flash movements, just like how the black-haired woman jumped via water drops. What kind of skeleton is this? It has mastered such a rare ability? The white-robed old man was rather shocked, since bone transformation was one of the best life-saving abilities for skeletons. As long as there was a bone left, they could still be reborn from that bone, even if their original body was destroyed. There was also the ability to use the skill for flash movement in that space. If you're unwilling to leave, just die then. The old man took action and fought the little skeleton with the power of laws. He asked his battle pet to attack Suaping while they fought fiercely. At the same time, the dark dragon hound had also moved to stop the black-haired woman with its defense skills. The 3 laws that Suaping had taught him had been integrated, making them much sturdier than before. Even the law of annihilation, which was purely about offense, was used creatively by the dark dragon hound. It was adapted as a skill that would defend with something akin to a water membrane that would obliterate anything that attacked it. The passive-aggressive way of attacking was quite unusual. What dog is this? The black-haired woman intended to circumvent the dog, only to find that it had so many skills that she couldn't get rid of it just yet. It was almost unbelievable. She was an assassin, and still, she had been held back by a dog. More importantly, the dog was even taunting her. It never tried to attack her, the only tactic was to defend itself. It was obviously taunting her. While the little skeleton and the dark dragon hound kept the other 2 enemies occupied, the situation didn't look good on Suaping's side. He was surrounded by 10 star-state pets along with the red-haired young man. 3 of the pets were as strong as the Dragon King that Suaping had met on the Rumbling Thunder continent. Kill him! The red-haired young man unleashed the power of his constitution and swept out his spear with the law of burning that would incinerate everything it touched, including the less powerful laws. Suaping felt that the energy in his body began to ebb as the light shone over him. That skill was powerful within the radiation range. The 10 pets weren't idle, not hesitating to use their skills while their owner fought. Some of the pets had even mastered 2 powerful laws. Force field. Suaping narrowed his eyes, not underestimating his enemies in the slightest. Almost all of the pets were using battle equipment, which according to what he had learned could increase the pet's astral power or contain special effects, apart from improving their defenses. The equipment allowed the pets to become almost as strong as the star-state pets in the demigod burial, even if they didn't have divine power. Boom! A dark plate appeared behind Suaping. It looked like a spinning dirty world. Unlike the force field from before, that one was bigger and had fewer phantoms. However, each floating phantom felt so real that they might step out of the force field at any time. Help me! Suaping's eyes became sharper as he called out to his aides. He had attained a new understanding of the common force field after he became a legendary warrior. He already made use of its power after all the battles and exercises in the demigod burial. He was able to summon phantoms, from the force field to reality as projections, as long as he provided enough energy. Boom! Explosions were bursting out in the tertiary space, where the sound could still be transmitted. The force field behind Suaping stopped circulating, and a phantom came out. Such spectre was an ancient arm covered in a fur that looked like dry grass. A barbaric and primordial aura was spread. The arm seemed illusionary, but it stopped in front of Suaping before the law-based skills struck him. The next moment, those skills disappeared like melted snow when they bumped against the arm. What? The red-haired young man was stunned by the outcome. The picture was quite shocking. An arm even bigger than that of a star-state pet had emerged from the gigantic shadow on Suaping's back. Break! Suaping suddenly exerted his strength and unleashed the astral power in his cells. Then, the ancient arm turned as if under his control, and made a sweeping motion with Suaping's body as the center. Bang, 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 bang. The space seemed to freeze, many star state pets were knocked away by the arm. Sui Ping had gauged that the arm was as powerful as a mid-phase star state beast. The only shortcoming was that it had a high energy demand. He had dozens of times more astral power than other ocean state warriors, but making use of the force field would still drain him. The attack was almost as good as his most powerful attack while using a dual merging. Down. Sui Ping controlled the arm to press down. The entire tertiary space seemed to freeze. Sui Ping's body, however, continued unrestrained. He sprinted with super acceleration and stomped on the red-haired young man's chest. The young man roared furiously, but he could not control his body. He fell out of the tertiary space and went back to the secondary space. This momentum continued, falling until he was jetted out of the deeper space to land on the outside world, crashing on the street outside of Sui Ping's shop with a loud boom. The street collapsed. All the shops except Sui Ping's were affected by the crash and had cracked walls. While in the midst of a cloud of dust, the red-haired young man lay inside a giant pit. Sui Ping stepped on his chest, making it impossible for him to move. There were two deafening explosions right after. The dust had yet to disperse. The cracked street instantly collapsed. Many Ocean State and 9th rank battle pet warriors made quick evasive motions, shocked by such development. Those who were weaker could only jump to the buildings nearby, or fly using their pets. "Is this the best you can do?" said an indifferent voice within the dispersing dust clouds. Then, there was a roar akin to that of an exasperated wild animal. After that, the dust was wiped out and a dark space had been torn open. Two people disappeared before anyone could see things clearly, leaving the damaged street behind. Boom! Both the Void State warriors and those in the Ocean State who were still in the secondary space thanks to their special abilities were stunned. They had just seen two blurred shadows appear at dozens of times the speed of sound and then disappear, so fast that they couldn't even see them clearly. Some of them realized what was going on and quickly returned to the outside world. However, once they were back outside, the two men went back to the secondary space and collided fiercely. Red flames and golden light splashed out and surrounded them. Half a second after the start of such a fierce battle, they tore the secondary space open and entered the even deeper tertiary space. However, space was torn again after they went in, and a frightening hand that was filled with a primeval air was extended from the tertiary space and laid a destructive finger on a man. The man was entirely clad in red, holding a long spear. Fiery shields appeared on his body, but all of them were broken. They were reformed and broken continuously. His body, pressed by the finger on that gigantic hand, penetrated the secondary space and came out. Boom! After a deafening explosion, one finger emerged from the void and pressed the red-haired young man to the street. The space around him was locked. The ancient truth exuded by the finger had dissolved the power of laws wielded by the red-haired young man and remained invulnerable. It was quite a shocking scene. The people on the street hadn't snapped back from their previous shock yet, but then they were again witnesses to another astounding scene. The finger seemed to have traveled from another ancient world, easily suppressing a star state warrior. The secondary space was also dead silent. The giant hand which seemed to belong to a primeval god dwelling in the tertiary space stood in the secondary space like an enormous pillar. One of its fingers had also gone beyond the secondary space, and only the thick arm could be seen. What creature is this? I feel like my soul is shivering. It's so horrible. I want to go. Some of the Fate State warriors' faces changed as they sensed the horrifying pressure. The less courageous Void State experts had pale faces and weak legs, just as if they were in front of a horrifying animal. Well, still watching amongst the crowd, Cleo and Lily were both stumped, not knowing what creature it was. The nearby Mia was just as shocked. The arm's aura was even more terrifying than her grandfather's. It seemed to belong to an ancient god that was looking down at that planet. Swoosh! Still in the tertiary space, Sui Ping saw through the secondary space and was aware of what was going on. He was slightly relieved to see that the red-haired young man had been successfully suppressed and immobilized. The projection from the force field had consumed half of the astral power in his body and was equal to his best attack. That was exactly how horrifying the force field could be. Force fields were elementary advantages of those with star state cultivation. However, different force fields had different power. The power of a force field depended on what a person had seen and endured. The worst experienced and endured, the more horrifying force field could become. As for the flowers that were raised in greenhouses, they could only project ordinary stuff, even if they grasped how to create a force field. The creatures summoned would not be the least intimidating. Take this attack. Sua Ping turned around and gave a cold look at the black-haired woman who was fighting the dark dragon hound. He still remembered her sneak attack attempt a moment earlier. Whoosh! He drew his sword and slashed at an unimaginable speed. It was a move he had practiced a million times. Space was shaking, and the power of 3 laws were compressed on the sword. Sua Ping had already made note of the expertise displayed by Star State experts from the Federation through his exchanges against the red-haired young man, so he didn't go easy on her. Hey! While she was trying to break the defense skills that the Dragon Hound had activated time and again, the black-haired woman felt a chill, goosebumps rose all over her body. She looked back and saw the brutal sword aura. Hiss! The black-haired woman gasped in fear. Having no time to keep her trump cards, she moved back and her pupils went black. Her life essence and her constitution were activated to the highest level. There was a swoosh, and her claws tore the void open. A crack appeared, and she then escaped into it. She ran off into the 4th space. It was a space that not even Star State experts could rip apart easily. The 4th space was extremely dangerous, since it contained the power of chaos. The deeper a space was, the closer to the nature of the universe it would be, and the more likely one could encounter truths. However, the truths that had already taken shape in the universe could hardly be grasped there. Adding to that, the pervasive environment was extremely harsh and dangerous. Hey! Once she made her escape, Sua Ping turned cold. No longer did he suppress his sword aura anymore. The sword aura instantly cut space open and disappeared into the 4th space. Sua Ping didn't know if his attack had landed, as it went beyond his control and senses after it entered the 4th space. What's going on? While fighting the little skeleton, the white-robed old man detected the unusual energy and immediately saw that scene. He was shocked. That youngster didn't use his full strength? On the other hand, the red-haired young man was nowhere to be seen, and a horrifying arm had extended out of the dark force field behind Sua Ping and through the tertiary space. Damn it! The old man no longer wished to fight after seeing all that. He didn't expect Sua Ping to be so strong, easily able to fight 3 enemies on his own. Their 10 Star State pets had worked with the red-haired young man, but they didn't beat Sua Ping. Contrary to their plans, the red-haired young man was gone. No wonder he dares to mess with the Ryans. The idea flashed in the white-robed old man's head. He was so frightened to see Sua Ping that he stopped fighting and quickly entered the secondary space. Then, he returned to the outside world through the secondary space. He saw the enormous finger extending from the void, right after returning to the outside world. The red-haired young man was being pressed to the ground like an ant by such a finger, unable to break free. The old man's expression quickly changed. He was about to rescue him, but then he sensed something and opted for a quick getaway. The highest speed he had used was when he entered the secondary space. The fastest movement in the outside world couldn't compare to a flash while in that inner space. A short distance in the tertiary space could mean dozens of kilometers in reality. The 4th space was even more unbelievable. One could easily travel across planets while traversing it. The white-robed old man entered the secondary space in the blink of an eye. He ignored the void state observers and disappeared into the tertiary space. Then, he fled at full speed. However, Sua Ping was just as strong as him, and was also in the tertiary space. It was the body movement technique as well as other secret techniques and laws that mattered. For instance, the black-haired woman's law of mirror had a flash effect in the tertiary space and was a great escape skill. It could allow her to escape from mid-phase star state experts who weren't good at running. Chaotic and destructive spatial turbulences were all over the tertiary space. A fate state battle pet warrior could easily be killed there. Where do you think you're going? Suaping narrowed his eyes and dashed out like a lightning bolt. He made use of the law of boom on his feet and fully activated his cells. He also used the movement techniques he had learned in the cultivation sites. They were nameless but extremely fast, especially when used over short distances. Sensing Suaping's pursuit, the white-robed old man was shocked. He roared angrily, "Block him!" Several star state pets immediately rushed over and stopped in front of Suaping after unleashing a few attacks. Suaping slashed and resisted the attacks, but he was effectively delayed, failing to get closer to the white-robed old man. The old man gritted his teeth when he saw that Suaping wouldn't let him go. He tore into the fourth space and vanished instantly. Suaping frowned when he saw the old man go to such lengths to escape, so he stopped. Summoning vortices appeared next to the white-robed old man's battle pets at that moment. All of them were recalled. Suaping saw this happen without a care. He thought for a moment and decided to stop chasing the enemy. If a star state expert was determined to run away, it would be considerably difficult to prevent it. The fourth space was chaotic, Suaping would have to tread carefully even though he had the solar bulwark. He could be killed if the enemy took advantage of the environment, or launched suicide attacks. He preferred not to risk his life. He actually cherished his life quite a bit, even though he had gone through countless deaths. After all, there were no grievances between them, he didn't have to fight as hard. Suaping spread out his senses and found that he had reached the sky of another city after only half a minute's pursuit. He remembered that there was quite a distance from Wofet to other cities. There were hundreds of kilometers even from the center of Wofet to its suburbs. The distance coverage in the tertiary space was truly shocking. Suaping slightly shook his head and returned. He found that the black-haired woman's pets were gone when he rejoined the little skeleton and the dark dragon hound. She had obviously survived his sword aura attack in the fourth space and had most likely fled. Suaping looked at the remaining 4 star state pets that belonged to the red-haired young man. They were confronting the little skeleton and the dark dragon hound together. The 4 pets were obviously scared of him, considering how they reacted when he returned. Whoosh! Suaping left the tertiary space with his pets and went back to the outside world through the secondary space. The giant hand from his force field was instantly dispersed. Suaping approached the red-haired young man and said indifferently, "Don't try to flee, or I'll chop off your head the moment you take action. Give it a try if you don't believe me." That was quite a threat. The red-haired young man, who was struggling to leave, stopped moving and asked, "What do you want?" The astonishing speed that Suaping had shown in the earlier battle was too high for him. He wasn't confident of making it out alive. He could tear into the fourth space and break free or fight Suaping there, but it would take time for him to enter the fourth space. Besides, when considering the distance between him and Suaping, he would probably be chopped up to pieces even before he got into the fourth space. That guy was undoubtedly in the mid-phase of the star state. Maybe not even O'Neill himself would be strong enough to defeat him. "You offended me, and yet you're asking me what I want?" asked Suaping indifferently while looking down at him. In the meantime on the back street, Cleo, Mia, and the other Void State people returned to the outside world from the secondary space. Phileas was among them. Although he was at the Ocean State, he had Void State pets that could help him enter the secondary space. Phileas' head was a mess at the moment, attempting to overcome the shock. He wasn't able to clearly see the recent battle, but the scene in front of his eyes was already astounding enough. The formerly high and mighty star state expert was talking to Suaping while lying on the ground. Suaping, on the other hand, was looking down at him as the victor. That was a star state expert. He was an expert just like O'Neill, the planet's dominator, a being able to travel through the universe without the need of vehicles. Still, such a man had been defeated by Suaping. The boss of that tiny shop was also a star state expert. Phileas remembered his past actions before Suaping. He didn't feel he had done anything inappropriate back then, but still, it had been too bold and outrageous of him. Once he realized Suaping's identity, he would probably be beaten and punished severely if anyone of his family ever learned that he had spoken to a star state warrior so impolitely. Phileas became more horrified as he mulled over the situation. He already started to consider how he should apologize to Suaping. Cleo was standing nearby. She was stupefied to a stronger degree because she knew that the man Suaping had just defeated was one of her family's honored guests. There was obviously a grudge between him and the Rein family. No wonder Suaping wasn't at all interested in her previous offer when she hoped to cut in line. Cleo found her answer, but she was slightly confused. If there were conflicts between Suaping and the Reins, why did he accept her professional training request? Is he intending to kill my pets? The thought scared her, but she soon thought otherwise, because he could have easily killed her on the spot if he really wanted to harm her. Cleo was so confused that she couldn't think straight. Mia was just as shocked. She didn't expect that the boss of a random shop on a Tier 3 planet would be a star state expert. Her father was right, certain experts loved keeping a low profile. It would be for the best to never be arrogant when moving outside. No wonder the training effect of this shop is so shocking. Even someone with star state level can only work as a manager. There must be a master trainer in the shop, if not a 3-starred Grandmaster trainer. Mia was quite shocked. Even the leader of the Lei family had to treat Grandmaster trainers politely, always making an effort to not piss them off. After all, Grandmaster trainers could raise Star Lord pets, and they often made friends with many Star Lords given their special profession. Offending a Grandmaster trainer was tantamount to affronting a group of Star Lords, which was all kinds of bad. The entire street was quiet at the moment, nobody dared to even breathe aloud. While still inside a pit on the street, the red-haired young man wore a complicated expression. He gnashed his teeth and said, "It's true that I offended you first. I'm willing to compensate." "How?" replied Suaping casually. "How do you want me to compensate?" The red-haired young man became a lot more hopeful after hearing that Suaping wasn't determined to kill him. Suaping said coldly, "Your life is in my hands. Your partners have escaped, nobody will come to rescue you. Now, name a price for your life." The young man's expression had a slight change. Given Suaping's peaceful tone, he had already guessed that his partners had either died or escaped. He was slightly relieved to hear that they were still alive, but he still felt horrible. The red-haired young man pulled himself together and looked at Suaping, begging, "I'll give you all my secret treasures and wealth. How's that sound?" "I can get all that after I kill you," said Suaping calmly. The young man looked terrible. Suaping was implying that those things didn't belong to him anymore, and he had to trade other stuff in exchange for his life. However, strong people like him always took their valuable items with them, except for their houses and other assets that couldn't be carried. Otherwise, the valuable items wouldn't belong to them anymore after they died. The red-haired young man gritted his teeth and made up his mind. "Do you want money? I can give you money. If you don't need money, I have sources to buy some rare items, I can buy them and give them to you. I also have invitations that are limited in number. I can give them to you, so that you can join certain top circles." They were all the additional treasures that he could offer. For instance, he had joined certain circles thanks to a lot of effort. Such circles only welcomed a limited number of people, money and star state rank wasn't enough to get in. "Really?" Suaping raised his eyebrows after hearing what the young man said, not expecting that he could really offer something interesting. He thought for a moment, but then felt slightly uncomfortable to be watched by so many people. "Okay, get up. Let's talk in my shop." The red-haired young man was relieved to feel that Suaping's killing intent was gone. He nodded and stood up. He also recalled his pets that were still in the tertiary space. Suaping led the young man into the shop and didn't relax until they entered the shop's safe area. He would be able to suppress him with the power of the system once they were inside. If the system refused to help, he could still ask Joanna to take care of him. While Joanna's reincarnation wasn't at the star state yet, that red-haired young man was probably unable to beat her. After all, Joanna knew much more laws and truths than Suaping did, and her methods were imaginable. Her real combat ability was even more horrifying than Suaping's pets combined. Obviously, the young man didn't know he had entered an inescapable place. He only knew that his life was momentarily out of danger. Once he relaxed, he then noticed that the whole street had been turned into a mess because of their fight, and some of the shops across the street had collapsed. However, Suaping's shop remained absolutely intact. He again remembered that their joint attacks didn't shake Suaping's shop and could only smile bitterly, becoming even more wary of Suaping. He was even more wary of Suaping than he was of O'Neill. O'Neill was his friend, and was only 30% wary of him. However, he was 120% wary of Suaping. After all, Suaping was bold enough to stay there after killing a student of the Humia Academy, one of the best academies in Sylvie. Suaping was only slightly stronger than himself, still far off from the peak of the star state, but, who knew if someone stronger was backing him? It would make sense that he had the courage to kill a student of a prestigious academy if he had a Star Lord supporter. The red-haired young man was even more scared and regretful when he thought of this possibility. He was a respected Star State warrior, but got defeated after standing up for Onal's grandson. It was so not worth it. Although that grandson had been an excellent seed, he was just a grandson anyway. He had the potential to reach the Star State, but only the potential. He could only reach that level if he grew up smoothly, without any trouble. Still, life was never smooth. Setbacks and sufferings were the norm. Does nothing attract its attention anymore? Suaping heaved a sigh and shook his head. Certain people would never come back after they were gone, but the rat didn't seem to have realized it. Maybe it has, but refuses to believe it. Suaping was silent for a moment and looked at the rodent. He didn't think further, time would heal everything. That was certain. Let's go in, Suaping said to the red-haired young man and closed the shop. As for the ruined street, it wasn't his fault. The Ryans had started it. The whole thing belongs to the Ryan family. Go ask the Ryans for compensation. Suaping believed that not even the city mayor would come after the battle, unless the leader of the Ryan family came along. Still, Suaping didn't consider it a big deal. He could always hide until he was strong enough if he couldn't defeat them. The people outside finally could breathe in relief after Suaping closed the shop. All of them whispered in shock. I think the Star State expert's been kidnapped. Be more confident and drop the I think. What about the other two Star State people? Did they flee? Did the owner defeat 3 enemies and capture one of them alive, all by himself? What's the background of this shop's boss? Why would a Star State big shot run a shop here? Is it fun? My shop is completely ruined. Hey, I heard this was the shop that sold 10 Class A Vast Sky Thunderous Dragons. Did someone say that it was fake news? Fake news? Do you think a Star State big shot cares about money? He wouldn't have hesitated even if he sold 100 Class A pets. It's not like they were in the Star State. You're right. That Star State big shot is probably doing this for fun. Does money mean anything to him? Isn't there a rule about queuing in this shop? Will they still do business tomorrow after what happened today? Business? The 3 Star State Bigs Hots are guests of the Ryan family, aren't they? This boss is clearly an enemy of the Ryan family. The family master will probably come in no time. Should we continue waiting, or should we run? I don't want to get hurt by accident if they fight. While they discussed, many people looked at the collapsed street outside of Suaping's shop and hesitated. It was then that a person dashed out of the crowd. It was the young Mia. She decided to keep waiting after much deliberation. She could always walk away if O'Neill did show up. Considering her identity, even he had to give her face, he would not dare to hurt her. After all, that planet was under the control of the Laefa family. Even though she was not prominent in her family, the Laefa name was still inviolable. Everybody was surprised to see the silver-haired girl be the first to step out and began to whisper again. Some interstellar travelers recognized her identity from her hair color. Gradually, more and more people stood behind her and queued up. Since someone from the Laefa was standing in the front, why should they be scared? As more and more people joined the line, those who wavered the most chose to follow the trend. However, the cautious ones among them were still observing. They had even retreated, in case the master of the Rein family made an abrupt appearance, not giving them time to escape. The previous line was disrupted by the battle and had to be reorganized. Phileas hesitated when he saw that a lot of people flew down. He eventually gritted his teeth and made up his mind he decided to try his luck. The Moreno family was declining, he had to rise and find a way out for his family. Sua Ping's shop was exactly the hope he saw in front of his eyes. If he could train all his pets in Sua Ping's shop, and if all of them were improved as much as the green alligator was, he would definitely distinguish himself in the pet contest and make his family famous. The rise of such an unusual talent among the descendants of the Moreno family, would make others pause and hesitate about taking advantage of his family. Everyone kicks a man who is down, but if an expert stood next to the man, fewer men would kick him, and there would still be a chance for him to rise again. I wish I hadn't wavered and trained my main pet instead. Phileas was rather regretful and nervous, wondering if Sua Ping would be angry because he had questioned the service. On the other hand, Cleo had a troubled expression while she stood farther apart from the queue. She certainly couldn't join the line anymore. Sua Ping had pissed off the Ryan family. If the family master came and saw her waiting in the line, his wrath would be beyond what she could bear. She even regretted paying 10 billion for the professional training service in Sua Ping's shop. She would inevitably be punished if it was found out. Although she was talented, she wasn't from the main branch. Talent didn't really mean much in that world, as many capable people were suppressed by incompetent superiors and could only manage to get by. Their talents were just glimmers, until they were strong enough to overthrow those on top of them. No wonder he doesn't care about money. Cleo's expression showed a myriad of emotions. "Cousin, should we go back and report the matter to the family right now?" Lily said in a low voice next to her. She seemed harmless and innocent, but she turned out to be quite flexible in the midst of trouble. After a moment of stupor, Cleo instantly realized that it was better for her to report the matter to her family first before it blew out of proportion. It was better to take the initiative than to wait. Inside the shop, Sua Ping didn't care about what was happening outside, there was too much on his plate. He hadn't trained all his pets. Those guys had arrived at an awfully bad timing, interrupting his enjoyable training sessions. Sua Ping sat down on the couch and said angrily, "Tell me, what can you offer?" Once he stood inside the shop, the red-haired young man looked around, wanting to find out if there were other experts present. He soon found that it was impossible for him to scan the other rooms in the shop, even the ordinary areas that were open to the customers seemed impenetrable, only because they were separated by one door. One door was enough to block his senses. His senses were definitely not weak, but he was completely unable to tell what was behind those closed doors. Were there also defenses inside the shop? The young man found this hard to believe and was quite shocked, but he didn't show it. He snapped out of his thoughts once he heard Sua Ping's question. He took a deep breath while staring at Sua Ping, who was sitting on the couch. "I have fixed assets. I've also invested in certain corporations. My shares are much more valuable than the money I have. There are also some astral crystal mines that provide me with plenty of astral crystals every year." Sua Ping listened on quietly. 10 minutes later, he nodded and asked, "Is that all?" In fact, he was quite satisfied, because what the red-haired young man had offered was far beyond his anticipation. He could earn a trillionaire income. What did trillions mean? Wofet's GDP was only 10 billion per year, and the richest guy of the camp continent only had several hundred billion. That red-haired young man had 1/10 of Ria's wealth, not including the secret treasures, astral crystals and other resources he carried on himself. Those items had been collected with great effort. They were much more valuable than several trillion astral coins. Suiping only felt sorry that the money couldn't be converted into energy. His shop's revenue would have soared if it could. However, the money could be useful in other aspects. Suiping only exploited him because he wanted to do something for the blue planet. His current expenses were based on the taxes from the blue planet. The planet's infrastructures would vastly improve if he invested several trillion. He had accepted his role as Lord of the Blue Planet, and he intended to do whatever he could to fulfill his responsibility. The red-haired young man gritted his teeth and said, "There's also an exclusive circle, I can offer you my spot." The circle includes the star state experts from all the solar systems and planets across Sylvie. They come from powerful backgrounds and special forces. You can make friends with other star state experts there. The leader of the circle is a Star Lord. It's said that the deputy leader is also a Star Lord, but they rarely show up. It's best not to disturb them. Things will be much easier for you in the future if you make more friends there. His heart was dripping blood. That spot meant more than all of his possessions. He had gone through a lot of trouble to suck up to a local peak star state expert in order to receive an invitation to join the circle. He was just a lackey inside the circle, but he was eloquent and good at playing cute. He had made friends with some of the strong star state experts, including O'Neill, who was another lackey of sorts, and was also part of the group. They sympathized with each other and became friends. He was originally a rogue expert. He eventually accepted Onal's invitation, so he traveled to Ria and became a guest of the family. A proportion of the astral crystals and revenue exploited on the planet would be regularly submitted to him. I want everything that you're reluctant to give away. Besides, the circle could be useful, too. The people in that circle could be potential customers once he raised his first batch of star state pets. The young man held back his regret, seeing that Suiping accepted. He said prudently, "That's all I have. Can you spare my life now?" Suiping frowned and pretended to be thinking carefully. "I don't have anything left," begged the red-haired young man when he saw that Suiping was silent. Nobody was around at the moment to witness his begging anyway. It wasn't exactly humiliating if no one was there to see it. While he considered this, he suddenly saw a girl who had the most beautiful face he had ever seen. He was stunned, feeling as though he had been smitten by lightning. "Okay, I'll release you after you transfer the things to me," said Suiping, seeing that he couldn't get anything else from the guy. "Do you swear?" The young man came back to his senses and quickly said, "You won't go back on your word, will you? How about we set up a soul agreement?" "What soul agreement?" "Never heard of it," said Suiping. He immediately declined since it was a weird thing that involved souls. "I'm a man of my word. I'll let the matter rest if you don't try this again. But don't blame me for not showing mercy if you do offend me again." "But, it's just your word," the red-haired young man couldn't help but remark. "Who says it's just my word? Do you not know how trustworthy I am? Why bother suspect me? I can kill you right now," snorted Suiping, pretending that he was too proud to lie. Joanna was next to the pet room door. She couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard this. Her eyes went all the way up, mostly showing sclera. A beautiful girl would still be beautiful when she rolled her eyes. Of course, neither of the other two people in the shop were in the mood to appreciate her beauty. The young man was speechless and uneasy, seeing that Suiping was reluctant to be bound. He certainly wasn't convinced by Suiping's pretense. Nobody who was honest and candid would have reached the star state. Not just the star state, even those who were fate state experts were either descendants of powerful forces or worldly, sophisticated folk. Okay, I'll contact the mining groups and the corporations that I've invested in and ask them to transfer the money right now. As for the Star State Circle, I'll inform them first and let you know after I receive a reply. The red-haired young man could only compromise, as he no longer had any bargaining chips. You'd better hurry, So Ping said, stay in my shop while you make arrangements. Don't go anywhere. Anna, keep an eye on him. Yes. Joanna nodded and spoke in a pleasant voice. The young man's foul mood finally lessened after hearing Joanna's voice. He looked at her. Beautiful things were always enjoyable. He felt a lot more relaxed, even thinking that it might not be a burden to stay in So Ping's shop. The guy turned out to have such a beautiful girl hidden in his shop. I've never seen a girl as beautiful as her, and she's only at the void state. Did he kidnap her from somewhere? This isn't fair. The red-haired young man was secretly angry, as if he would have seen a flower lying over feces. He believed that even some star lords would have been attracted to the girl. There were many beautiful girls in the world, but not all of them were strong. All the beautiful girls who were at the top would kneel in front of experts. Joanna, in particular, was the most beautiful of all. Her face alone had left him stunned and amazed. It was at this moment that Joanna turned around and glared at the young man. What are you looking at? I'll gouge your eyes out if you keep staring. So beautiful. She was so beautiful even when she yelled at someone. Once again, the young man was amazed, but then snapped back to his senses. Being a Star State warrior, he kept his cool and avoided swooning over the girl. He frowned and said, "Do you know who I am? You're just a void state warrior. Where are your manners?" He knew that, the more humble he was when interacting with such beautiful girls, the less they would think of him. He would only attract their attention if he treated them coldly. Humph! You think the Star State is something? Do you want to be beaten up? Joanna rolled her eyes again. It was almost hilarious that a Star State guy would act contemptuously before someone with ascendant state level. So Ping was barely able to avoid bursting out in laughter. The guy was trying to show off his cultivation in front of Joanna. Is he trying to get humiliated? You! The red-haired young man became furious. Did the girl see how I was begging to be spared and now thinks I'm a nobody that anybody can take advantage of? I might as well show you some Star State moves, so that you know the void state means nothing. He snorted and simply applied space pressure. His plan was to scare the girl. Sometimes, it was a better solution to impress such proud girls with strength. However, Joanna emanated a dazzling golden light right after he took action. Then, she flashed, and a glowing spear pointed at the center of the red-haired young man's eyebrows. The whole shop became quiet. The red-haired young man's eyes widened in shock. He felt as if his head were covered in an attraction force that was both horrifying and lethal. His target had already locked onto him. He would be attacked if he did anything wrong. The golden light enveloping the spear was dazzling and fierce, like that of the sun. It seemed able to destroy a planet at any time. What kind of monster is this woman? The red-haired young man suddenly felt frightened. He quickly realized that So Ping had been pretending to be an ocean state warrior, so the girl's void state level was obviously a disguise too. What the heck? Those two scoundrels liked to play dirty. It was truly unscrupulous to hide their strength all the time. So Ping was quite surprised. He knew that Joanna was strong enough to deal with the red-haired young man, but he didn't know she was that good. She defeated the enemy in one moment. If she hadn't gone easy on him, she probably could have killed him in one attack. Even though the red-haired young man had just fought him and was quite weak at the moment and he was defenseless, he was a Star State warrior nevertheless, and Joanna was at the void state, yet she had defeated him easily. She really was horrifying. The instant outburst of strength seemed to have made use of her constitution and divine power in the most appropriate way. So Ping's eyes flashed. Even he didn't see the attack clearly. Humph, behave. Joanna shook her hands, and the spear she had been holding was dispersed as golden light. The golden light on her skin also vanished as she snorted. The young man was already covered in cold sweat. He nodded quickly, not even daring to breathe aloud. The admiration in his heart based on appearances was also shattered. When a man is humble enough, he would lose the ability of loving. It was exactly the case for the red-haired young man, who felt devastated. "Keep an eye on him inside the shop. I'll go train the pets," said Suaping. Joanna had shown enough strength for Suaping to entrust her with the prisoner. She frowned and asked, "You don't need my company?" "No. I'm tired of the dangerous places anyway, and I'm going somewhere else," replied Suaping casually, then entered the pet room. "Training? By himself?" The red-haired young man was quite shocked by what Suaping had said. He finally noticed that Suaping was running a pet shop. Is Suaping also a trainer? He felt that his heart had been heavily struck again. "I don't know how good he is as a trainer. I'll feel better if he only has 5 stars, the young man thought. In the meantime, in regards to the central continent, the Rein family. What? Garland was caught. A mysterious realm was found on the mountaintop by the Ryan's headquarters. A man who was as brawny as a bear changed his expression and looked at the 2 visitors in shock. The astral power in that realm is very dense, and there was a hill of purple astral crystals in it. The purple astral crystals were surrounded by auras that could increase one's odds of success when entering a state of epiphany, which could allow them to grasp new laws. 3 visitors stood in front of the brawny man. 2 of them were the black-haired woman and the white-robed old man. The third person was an old man wearing a purple robe. He was exactly Onal's son and the current executive officer of the Ryans, who was responsible for all the family affairs. O'Neill had spent most of his time training in the mysterious realm and only listened to his son's reports in regards to what had happened outside. "That man was bold enough to kill my grandson? How dare he? You failed to defeat him even after living together? Is he in the mid-phase of the star state?" The brawny man was shocked and infuriated. His grandson being killed on his own planet was like a slap on the Ryan's face. "Probably," replied the white-robed old man bitterly. O'Neill was looking quite gloomy. He had not foreseen that the enemy was in the advanced phase of the star state. Because if so, the 2 visitors before him couldn't have survived. "Is it true that he also killed a student of the Humia Academy?" "That is correct." O'Neill took a deep breath and fell into silence. "Garland is still in his hands." "We don't know his current location," said the black-haired woman with a worried gaze. Onal's eyes flashed. He finally said several minutes later, "Go figure out Garland's situation first, and then find out the guy's background. A guy in the mid-phase of the star state is qualified to become lord of a tier 3 planet. Why did I open up a shop here? It's very weird." He was quite relieved to see that his father wasn't reckless. Being the current administrator of the Ryan family, he knew that even though the family was strong, it would suffer huge losses if it had a head-on clash with someone in the mid-phase of the star state. The more successful people were, the more likely they would cut their losses in time. "I'll ask around in the star state circle later on and see if anybody knows him," said O'Neill grimly. The black-haired woman and the white-robed old man looked at each other silently. On the same day at night on the camp continent, planet Rhea. Wofet City was ablaze with lights under the night sky, as if it were daytime. Many people had gathered on the street where a huge battle took place during the day. Even the nearby streets had been crammed by battle pet warriors who had gone there to watch. Too many people had witnessed the battle in the afternoon. The news couldn't be blocked, especially not in the Federation where information was transmitted at an unimaginable speed. The news could have been transmitted to other planets, had it not been for network limitations. Everybody in the camp continent had learned of the star state battle on the street. As for the other continents, certain well-informed forces would receive reports. They were putting attention to the matter too. According to some informants, some of the Ryan family's honored guests had been involved in the battle. Such news had an underlying meaning. Someone had challenged the leading family's authority on Rhea. It was definitely huge. Do you think the master of the Ryan family will come in person? What is the background of this shop? Pixie Pet Store? It's my first time hearing about it. Is it an extraterrestrial corporation that intends to establish branches on Rhea? If that's the case, they should make friends with the Ryan family instead of fighting it, don't you think? I was told that someone from the Ryan family was attracted to a beautiful girl in the shop and wanted to take her away, hence the fight. A beautiful girl? What beautiful girl? Dude, you haven't been to the shop yet, have you? There's a beautiful employee working there, she eclipses Alice in every way. You'll believe me once you see her. I divorced my wife right after I went back home on the day I saw her. Seriously? Buddy, are you really that ruthless? That's not a big deal. I would rather stay single and wait for her. People gossiped in the crowd. There was no telling who started it, but the cause of the war was eventually attributed to a woman. Many people then spoke about it for a while, remarking that beautiful girls were always the cause of disasters. The customers who had been to Suo Ping's shop and seen Joanna, however, said that her beauty was mind-boggling to them, and that they would have fought for her too if they were strong enough. The Ryan family wouldn't get to step in at all. It's already nighttime. I wonder if the Ryan family will send someone else. Considering the Ryan family's speed, it should be arriving from the central continent any minute now. Will we be accidentally hurt in the battle later if we observe from here? Are you nuts? There are so many people here. I'm here because someone from the Lei Fa family is here too. How could the Ryans fight in the city? They'll probably move the battlefield to the tertiary space if they start a battle. We won't feel a thing. That's true. But why aren't they here yet? The observers were almost running out of patience. The pet assessment shop across the street was also affected by the street collapsing, still, it had defensive measures and the devices inside weren't damaged. That's all I know. Cleo stood obediently in her office, while in front of her was the holograph of a middle-aged man made of data streams. The man frowned and asked, "Is that all?" "Yes." Cleo bit her lips and said, "I promise that everything I said is true. I didn't know the shop at all, and I only left my pets for training there out of curiosity, and because I thought there was a master trainer in the shop after Lily bought 2 amazing battle pets from that place." The middle-aged man didn't seem to hear her, he was in deep thought. A moment later, he finally refocused and said indifferently, "Got it. The family will investigate it soon, you have nothing to worry about if your confession is true. Since you're there, continue your observations and report to us immediately if you find anything." Cleo was quite relieved. She asked prudently, "My lord, may I ask how the shop's boss offended our family?" The middle-aged man frowned and looked at her. Considering her talent, he thought for a moment and said, "The shop owner, the young man you saw earlier, killed Prince Randall." "What?" Cleo's eyes widened with shock. Randall was killed by Suo Ping? She couldn't be more familiar with the name Randall, being a family member. He was part of the main family branch, and was one of the 3 most talented descendants. Everybody had high hopes for him. Even though she was just as talented and would have grown as strong as Randall if she had enough resources, her position in the family was much lower than his. There would have been no consequences even if Randall would have accidentally killed her. Conversely, she would have been severely punished if she would have hurt him, even if only mildly. Her cultivation would have been abolished, or she might have been sentenced to death. The main branch's authority was not to be ever contested. Many people are aware of this matter, but it's not exactly something that we're proud of, so it is best if you better keep this to yourself, said the middle-aged man indifferently and ended the communication. The holograph instantly vanished. Cleo stood, completely stunned. All she could think of was Suo Ping's calm face. The day's events had shocked her so much that her soul had almost left her body. That guy is a star state expert. He also killed Prince Randall. What emboldened him to do that? Even if he is at the star state, it's not rational to offend the Ryan family, is it? Why did he kill Randall? Did the sixth prince piss him off? He must have. Cleo was stunned for a long time while wearing a bitter smile. She didn't believe that Suaping would have attacked a member of the Ryan family for no reason. He could have killed her easily back when she was in his shop if there were grievances between him and the Ryans. Unless, she was so insignificant that Suaping didn't figure out her connection with the Ryan family. But that didn't make sense, as her clothes clearly had the family emblem. It was then obvious that Suaping didn't hate the Ryan family back then. Randall's death might have been purely accidental. Alternatively, he might have pissed off the Star State expert while oblivious of the latter's status. After all, that guy had been pretending to be an Ocean State warrior. Why do you have to pretend to be such a lowly fellow when you're actually this strong? You could pretend to be a Fate State expert if you prefer to keep a low profile. Nobody would dare to mess with you. Also, nobody would feel surprised or shocked to see a Fate State warrior on the road. Such a disguise is both low-key and less troublesome. Wouldn't that be much better? Good thing I didn't say anything outrageous back then. I'm so scared. Cleo was terrified since she remembered how she had snapped angrily at Suaping in his shop. Suaping could have then revealed his identity and straightaway request her family to have her killed if he were pushed hard enough. After all, her family would never risk offending a Star State big shot for the sake of a junior such as herself. However, Suaping had killed Randall, a talented heir of the Ryan family. The whole thing would not be easy to get over with. Cleo took another deep breath and heaved a sigh. She walked out of the office with Lily in tow, then looked at the shop across the street through the window on the second floor. The street was currently jam-packed with people. However, the queue outside Suaping's shop was still obvious. Cleo was in no mood to join the queue anymore, even if she were given a chance to stand at the front of the line. Her life was more important. People should have already arrived from the central continent. Let me ask my father. Cleo checked the time and felt confused. She quickly made a phone call to contact her father. What? Cleo was stunned yet again upon hearing the message over the phone. What's wrong, cousin? Lily was stunned for a moment. She didn't eavesdrop on Cleo's call out of courtesy, blocking her own ears for a moment. Once she hung up the phone, Cleo said, still unable to process what she had heard, my father said that the family didn't react, although everybody had learned of the matter. Grandfather didn't even leave the mysterious realm. He didn't? Asked Lily in disbelief. Is our family going to let the matter go? But, we're talking of Prince Randall being killed. Cleo was also in a trance. That was so true. The victim was Randall. He was the brilliant star of the family's younger generation, an unreachable genius to look up to. Still, the family was intending to let things slide after he was killed? Just now, Garland was escorted into the shop by him. The other two guests escaped. Do they think that the guy is not just a Star State expert, that even grandfather found it tricky to deal with him? Cleo thought, only to be horrified by the possibility. Time flew. Midnight soon arrived. However, the starry sky above them was just as brilliant. Half of the observers on the street had left. Even so, the street was still quite crowded. What's going on? Is the master of the Ryan family away from home? Do you think the Ryan family wants to make a concession? A concession? How could that be possible? That would only happen if he were a peak Star State expert, otherwise the Ryans would never let go after such a humiliation. It was already late at night, and the Ryan family had not taken any action yet. Many people thought they would probably not see the battle they were expecting. It's true that our family intends to let go of the matter, or maybe they haven't found out about the guy's background yet, thought Cleo, still on her shop's second floor while looking at the quiet Pixie Pet Store. She felt more certain of her speculation. Her family would have arrived by then if they wanted to take action. But, they had yet to arrive. That could only mean that they were intimidated by either Suiping or the forces behind him. This shop has been here for years, but it never left any impression on me. It also seemed to have a different boss. Was the shop transferred? Weird. Cleo tried to dig through her memories, only to find that they were blurred. She remembered that the shop had existed on the street for years, but it always remained low-key, never leaving any impression on her. Move. Get out of the way. A group of city guards appeared on the street at that moment. Most of them had an ocean state cultivation and were clad in matching silver armor. A muscular man in the lead bellowed, "This place has been locked down for road maintenance. Everybody, please leave." He was a void state warrior, and his announcement echoed throughout the street. Everybody was able to hear him, loud and clear. The mayor of Wofet had sent city guards over, which was somewhat surprising for those present. They knew it was the Rein family taking action through them. Were they intending to clear the field to start a battle? Many of them felt both excited and regretful as they thought of that. They had waited for a long time, and the show was finally on. And yet, they had just been told that they had no tickets and had to leave. Many of them complained in low voices, while some even cursed vehemently in their hearts. Even so, most of them left as instructed, not daring to disobey the Ryans, who were the absolute emperors of Rhea. Apart from the Federation laws, all the rules set up by the Rein family also had to be followed by those on the planet. Every governed planet had its own set of rules added by its lord. If there was a higher organization governing the planet's solar system, the regulations imposed by the solar system's lord would also apply. Of course, all of those rules and regulations couldn't conflict with the federal laws, or they would be considered ineffective. Will they attack? I don't think so. Still on the second floor, Cleo frowned at the scene, feeling that those people weren't there to clear the battlefield. She knew the Rein family's style. They would have arrived and charged with a grand display of force. Never would they clear the field, they would show how strong the Rein family was and focus their efforts on leaving the people present in awe. "It seems that our family plans to concede," said Lily in a low voice. She looked like a cute little girl, but she was actually quite shrewd. Cleo nodded. Soon, most of the people on the street had left, except those who were waiting in a long line outside of Suiping's shop. The captain of the city guards frowned after seeing them. Much to their surprise, he didn't ask them to leave. "You must be an honorable guest from the Lei-Fa family. Welcome to Rhea." The captain of the city guards quickly approached Mia, who was at the front of the line, and flashed a courteous and obsequious smile on his previously cold face. One of the rules observed on Rhea was that every member of the Lei-Fa had to be treated in the most respectful way, exactly as they would treat core members of the Rein family. After all, Rhea belonged to the Zero-Prun solar system, which was the Lei-Fa family's domain. The Rein family had to respect their superiors. "All right. My presence won't hinder your road maintenance, right?" Mia nodded and asked. She had learned the backgrounds of the Star State experts who participated in the previous battle thanks to the gossiping around her. She felt uncomfortable with the conflict between the Ryans and Suiping. She didn't like the Rein family in the first place, because Lane had been courting her like a sticky pad. She didn't like that, at all. Alas, she wasn't from the family's main branch. Her mother didn't originate from a powerful background, otherwise, she could have stopped the Rein family from retaliating against Suiping's shop by uttering a single word. She could only stand by and watch at the moment. Her identity in the Lei-Fa family was quite sensitive. She preferred not getting involved in serious matters or acting in the name of the Lei-Fa family until she was fully fledged. There was a risk that she, her mother and friends in the family could be affected. She had her own difficulties, but the others didn't know. They only knew that she was from the Lei-Fa, so none of them had dared to offend her. "No, of course not," said the captain quickly, rather flattered. The other people waiting in line behind her were shocked. Some already knew her identity, while others had just realized it. "A girl from the Lei-Fa family, to them, was like an angel from the heavens. And yet, such a girl was standing right in front of them. The captain of the guards didn't disturb her any further after offering his greetings. He and his guards arranged themselves to stand on both sides of the street. Very soon, a few men stepped out of the secondary space, emerging as if out of thin air after a space jump. There were 3 of them in total, and all of them were at the Fate state. This is the shop. I can't probe the interior, even though I'm using an ancient technique. Don't cause trouble. The family has sent us here to reach an agreement. They spoke to each other in midair. Everybody gasped when they saw the old man in the middle. He was the mayor of Wofet City. The mayor had shown up in person. Is he intent on attacking the shop? Still, no matter how renowned he wasn't able to beat a Star State expert. The 3 men in the sky led by the old man in the middle came to the front of the queue and greeted me right after. Then, the mayor dropped a hint by looking at the closed door, asking the captain of the guards to knock on the door. The captain instantly stepped forward and did as implied, but no one answered. He called out again, and then the door suddenly opened. A gorgeous girl with long blonde hair and fair skin appeared in front of them. A red-haired young man was standing next to the girl. He was exactly Garland, the Star State expert who had fought there earlier, and a guest at the Ryan family. Mr. Roger Garland. The mayor's face suffered a slight change in his expression after seeing the young man. The others, however, were attracted to Joanna. Those who had never been to Sua Ping's shop were astounded by her looks. "Mom, I'm in love. How can anyone be so beautiful? I can carry her baby. I can't believe anyone can be this beautiful in this secular world. Is she an angel?" The crowd exclaimed, shocked and fascinated. Garland saw the mayor and frowned. He asked, "O'Neill is not here." The mayor came back to his senses and quickly said telepathically, "Sir, Master knows that you were held in custody and was worried that you might be hurt, so he asked us to take a step back." Garland raised his eyebrows ever so slightly. He knew that it might not be the truth, but he did feel warm and his demeanor became gentler. He replied telepathically, "That's the right decision to take. I was really worried that he might launch another attack. Tell him not to be rash when you go back. There's not just one Star State expert in this shop. The stunning woman in front of you is also a Star State warrior, and she's even stronger than him. She might be at the peak of the Star State, the peak of the Star State." The mayor narrowed his eyes, nearly losing his cool and shouting out loud. "Seriously? Anyone with a peak Star State realm could act as lord of a Tier 1 planet. Even O'Neill himself, the master of the Ryan family, had to be courteous towards them and would even try to adulate them." Joanna suddenly spoke, "Why are you making noises here?" She directed a cold gaze at the captain who had just knocked the door. The captain felt somewhat under a daze. He was about to talk, but the mayor interrupted him in time and roared, "Who allowed you to knock on the door? Kneel and apologize." The captain. That was not what you said a moment earlier." To be honest, he was quite stunned as well. The sudden plot twist came so fast he almost hurt his back. Is it because of the woman's identity? Or is it simply because she's pretty? He never knew the mayor had a lustful streak. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up," the mayor roared when he saw that the captain wasn't moving due to his stupor. Cold sweat ran all over his back. The woman was most likely at the peak of the Star State, as stated by Mr. Garland. She had to be really close to such an estimate, even if she wasn't already there. He certainly couldn't afford pissing her off. Did they not see that even the family master didn't dare to make a personal visit? The captain woke up after the yelling, his face became blue and pale. However, having been a captain of city guards for years, he knew what to do and simply fell on his knees. My lady, it was me who knocked on the door. Sorry if my actions disturbed you," said the captain of the city guards after lowering his head. The only reason for the mayor's sudden change of attitude could have been due to the woman's extraordinary identity. Otherwise, the mayor would have been fired and executed by the Ryans for disgracing his family. That is, if he had changed his attitude simply because she was pretty. The whole street was quiet when the captain fell to his knees. The whole street was quiet, all that could be heard was the noise from a few blocks away. All the people who had been ready to watch a battle on the street were shocked. Someone from the mayor's office had just decided to kneel? He was so aggressive at first, but then he suddenly knelt in front of her. That was certainly unexpected. Well, Cleo watched such a development from the second floor of the assessment. She was quite surprised. What is going on? What is the blonde woman's identity, to force the mayor into making his captain kneel? Could she be a star state expert, too? She must be. Could there be another explanation except that? Cleo felt cold after evaluating. She had seen the blonde woman seemingly an employee in So Ping's shop earlier. That woman had left a deep impression on her, even though she was slightly angry. She's also a star state expert. Lily was equally dumbfounded, not expecting that such a tiny shop would have 2 star state warriors. It was too unbelievable. Aside from them, the people on the street came to their senses. None of them was an idiot, they soon figured out a reason. If the blonde woman didn't have such a high rank, why on earth would the captain have knelt and apologized? That man represented the honor of Wofet City. Wofet City was under the control of the Ryan family. So, the Ryan family's honor was at risk. I thought they were here to demand an explanation. Oh my goodness, it's more like they're begging for an explanation. Why did he do that? Did this shop really have such a powerful background? Everybody whispered in a low voice, shocked. They had always thought that the Ryan family were the kings on Rhea, but they found that there were kings above them. You did disturb me. You won't need to breathe any longer if you do this again, said Joanna with an indifferent, pleasant, and daunting tone. The captain's heart was beating faster, cold sweat dripped from his forehead. He quickly knelt and kowtowed. It wasn't embarrassing to kowtow before a star state warrior. Besides, it was the mayor who had asked him to kneel. The former would also be punished by the Ryans if he was ever blamed for it. Get the hell out of here and stop embarrassing yourself, the mayor instantly roared. He didn't feel happy about the whispers. After all, he had been sent there to reach an agreement with the other party. That unexpected development had disgraced the Ryan family. He wouldn't have behaved like that had it not been for what Garland said. After all, the Ryan family would blame everything on him and punish him all the same if the woman was truly a peak star state expert and he managed to offend her. It was quite a dilemma. He only hated being the one appointed to deal with it. Of all the places in the world, why did you have to open your shop in my city? The captain of the city guards was again rendered speechless when the mayor spoke. But he didn't dare to express his dissatisfaction, he simply backed away on his knees. Apologies for my subordinate's inconsideration, my lady. I'm the mayor of Wofet City. We're here mainly to repair the street, said the mayor respectfully. The observers on the street clicked their tongues when they heard that. This man is quite shrewd. To repair the street? They were clearly there to negotiate, even after that kneeling disgrace they had to endure. He was claiming he was there to repair the street, meaning that they didn't represent the Ryan family. In that case, the embarrassment wouldn't be linked to the Ryans. It was true that nobody could get to higher positions with brawn and no brains. Those who only fought with brawn were just reckless guys. If the ones ruling the world did so with their great fists, their reign would have soon collapsed. Strength was only second to wisdom. Joanna raised her head and said in disdain, if you're here to repair the street, do it. Why are you talking bulls it to me? Are they trying to deceive me? Being the war goddess in the demigod burial, she wasn't just a warrior, but also a person with great power. She had seen exactly what those people were up to. She had already figured out why they had shown up the moment she opened the door. After all, she was aware of So Ping's earlier battle, and the latter had given her an introduction to the world outside the shop, she had a basic understanding of their current environment. Adding her own speculations and judgment, she had already foreseen what would happen next. Well, the mayor was stunned by the response of such a delicately faced girl, feeling that the rudeness didn't match her look. Shouldn't a girl like her be a graceful lady? Why did she give off the vibe of a man? When his excuse was seen through, the mayor simply replied with a telepathic message, while keeping a humble attitude, "Well, my lady, we're here as representatives of the Ryan family. We would like to know what we should do to bury the hatchet. Have you release Mr. Garland?" Naturally, he couldn't let others hear his begging. "Make peace? You'll have to wait for my boss to come back." "I can't make that decision," said Joanna indifferently. Then, she turned around and closed the shop. When she closed the door, she said, "Repair the street right now, don't let it affect our business. By the way, don't come again for unnecessary trouble." Bang! With that, she closed the shop. The mayor stood at the entrance of the shop, stunned. She can't make the decision? She has to ask the boss? Is there a stronger guy above that Star State woman? Was it the young man who captured Garland in the battle earlier, or is it someone who had yet to show up? The more he thought about it, the more shocked the mayor became. He felt compelled to report the terrifying news to his family immediately. The mayor saw Garland's helpless eyes when the door was closed. He smiled bitterly and knew he had messed up what he was sent there for. Garland had to be confined in the shop for a while longer. The mayor turned around and said to his two Fate State companions, "Inform the construction department and repair the street before dawn. I'll be taking my leave." They quickly accepted the task with utmost respect. Although they were at the same level, the mayor had already reached the advanced phase and was part of a powerful faction within the Ryan family. They had to respect him. "Stay here and work with the construction department. Don't let anyone slack on the job," said the mayor to the captain of the city guards. He patted the captain's shoulder as if comforting him after saying that. The captain of city guards wept in his heart. It was true that a trusted subordinate was always the best choice as the scapegoat. "Yes, my lord." He accepted the task respectfully, not daring to show his emotions. Everyone who remained on the street was still in shock after the mayor and his companions left. They didn't expect the mayor from the Ryan family to leave just like that. It seemed that their negotiation had fallen out. The shop was closed first. They didn't show any respect to the Ryans. They didn't even invite them into the shop. I wonder what the Ryan family will do next. This tiny shop has 2 Star State experts. Not even the Ryans would have willingly pissed them off. It's too irrational. That's right. A battle won't do us any favors. A battle between Star State experts will cause turmoil all over the planet. Some old men who had grown up on that planet were rather worried. A battle of that caliber would be like a nuclear war in the blue planet's primitive age. It was the general public who would suffer in the end. Outside the shop, Mia had been stunned to see that event happen in front of her. Is Joanna a Star State warrior? No wonder she beat me so soundly in our virtual sparring. Considering the methods of the Star State, she could have easily taken her down, even if they were at the same level. She was suddenly mollified. She had always thought she had been defeated by someone of her same rank. It made much more sense that a Star State warrior had beaten her silly. I knew I couldn't be beaten so miserably by someone my level, Mia thought. She was suddenly eager to fight her again. It was the dream of many to have a chance to fight such an expert. This would enable her to increase her technique. The shop owner is also a Star State warrior. What an extraordinary shop. No wonder he didn't give Lane any face earlier. Odd. Does the boss hate the Ryans because of that incident? Mia suddenly grew uneasy once the thought crossed her mind. Lane had tried to defend her as a way to impress her. She would feel guilty if Suiping was at odds with the Ryans because of that exchange. What should I do? I should ask him tomorrow. I wonder if he'll be open about it. Mia thought. She was willing to act as a mediator to solve the issue if that were the case. At the same time, the mayor had reported the news to the Ryan family. All the family members fell quiet once they heard about the presence of another star state expert. In particular, the mayor stated that the person was likely to be at the peak of the star state, according to Garland. That was truly a piece of shocking news. The Ryan family was dead silent. The leaders were utterly speechless because of the news. The radicals had turned mute. They had been the ones most vocal about declaring war on the shop to display their family's power. One of the two star state experts had fought against Garland, the white-robed old man and the other guests, imprisoning Garland in the end. It was very likely that such an expert was at the peak of the star state. Why did such a pair of monsters move to Rhea? The other person seemed to be at the peak of the rank. Two star state people were doing business together? Is that supposed to be a joke? What intimidated O'Neill even more was that someone even stronger might be behind that powerful pair. Say, several Star Lords. He couldn't afford to piss them off. He was of a mind to give in. Keeping a tough attitude would only make his family suffer. The shop owner who stepped out earlier was already tricky enough, not to mention the guy had an ally. He probably couldn't take them down even if he invited his friends. Even if they did fight, the entire planet would be destroyed. Unless, he asked the Laefa family for help. After all, that planet belonged to the Laefa family's solar system, and its prosperity was in their best interests. But if he were to start a planetary war just because one of his grandsons had died, would he be punished and killed by the Laefa family afterwards? He had no doubt about it. After all, the whole thing had begun with his grandson Randall attempting to rob a star state expert, thus offending him. Getting himself killed was a natural outcome. Even if other star state peers learned about the situation, they would also agree that he deserved death. So, the whole thing was rather tricky. His retaliation wasn't justified. He would not need to justify his actions if he were strong enough, but that wasn't the case. That was the cold reality. No reasoning was needed if he could crush his enemy. He would have to reason with them if he couldn't. However, he couldn't possibly win in such a negotiation. What to do? He had no choice but to give in. The more he thought about it, the more awful O'Neill looked. In the end he took a deep breath, gradually breathing out his fury and recovering his calm state. It was better to lose face than to suffer greater losses. Deliver my order. Don't piss off that shop again. Send someone to negotiate with them and have them release Garland. Fulfill their demands as long as they aren't too outrageous, said O'Neill solemnly. The old man in purple nodded and accepted the task. He was relieved to see that his father wouldn't act recklessly. His years of managing the family were all thanks to his calm and considerate character. While Randall's death was infuriating, anger couldn't solve the problem, it would only make it worse. He had been chosen to manage all affairs in the family, large and small, exactly because he was rational and calm enough. If a grandson was gone, another grandson could always be born. Besides, there were two more sons who were both rather promising. Randall had provoked quite a formidable enemy for his family, much before he was fully grown. He truly deserved death. The old man in purple thought everything through. The only thing that made him mad was that worthless grandson had disgraced the family in battle. It was unforgivable. In Wofat City many pets were repairing the street. They had grasped skills related to construction and life through special training. The street was soon fixed with their help. Some of the ruined shops were also renovated and strengthened. The line outside of the Pixie Pet Store was very long. More and more people had joined it after learning that someone from the Laefa family was also there. The stars and the moon were gradually gone, and the sun was rising. The next day had soon arrived. The pets and the city construction department had retreated, and so had the city guards except for one squad, which was asked to maintain order as an aid to Sue Ping's shop. They claimed that too many people were waiting and conflicts could potentially arise. Those waiting in line were all battle pet warriors. They weren't fools, how could there be any conflicts? It was just a gesture of friendliness. Very soon, it was 10 in the morning. Why is the door still not open? Will the shop remain closed because of the battle yesterday? This is so inconsiderate. Why won't he open the shop yet? Is this how you do business? Are we waiting for nothing? Shut up. How can you be waiting for nothing? The shop will open tomorrow even if they don't open today. The wait will be worth it even if I stand here for a week to buy a pet. Exactly. All the pets here have Class A aptitude. One day of waiting is nothing. Get the hell out of here if you don't want to wait. Everybody in the queue whispered. It was then that the shop slowly opened, and Suo Ping stood by the door. There were stubbles in his face after a single night. Suo Ping simply opened the door without taking time to shave, knowing that the customers had waited for a long time. You're back. Suo Ping looked at an empty space not far away from the team and smiled. Tang Ruyan and Zhongling Tong, who had been standing there, quickly ran to him. Zhongling Tong stuck out her tongue and said, "Sir, you're so awesome. Is our shop so popular after it just opened?" "Yeah, I heard that our shop just sold some Class A pets. Is it true?" Tang Ruyan was curious too. Neither of them expected that the shop would become even more popular than it was back on the Blue Planet. It was a stark difference after barely returning from the language school. "It seems that you are quite fluent in the common tongue now." Suo Ping chuckled when he heard them speak the language. Tang Ruyan snorted and said, "Of course. We're geniuses." "Geniuses? Go and entertain the customers." Suo Ping smiled and then entered the shop. "Have the ones who are here to claim their pets enter first," said Suo Ping. Tang Ruyan regained the professionalism she had developed back on the Blue Planet. She saluted and said, "As you wish." Then, she stood at the door with arms akimbo, before she roared, "Come on in if you are here to claim your pet. If you have other needs, please wait." "Hey? Why? I have to keep waiting," someone in the line shouted, angry about the girl's announcement. Tang Ruyan was a 9th ranker, which was quite a remarkable feat on the Blue Planet, but most of their customers were Ocean State warriors. They weren't impressed by her, at all. Although it was weird enough seeing someone as strong as her working as a store clerk, they had already seen the blonde woman. Tang Ruyan's appearance wasn't as surprising. Rules are rules. Tang Ruyan rolled her eyes and bellowed at the guy who complained. The guy fell quiet after hearing that. Everybody had searched online for the rules in Suo Ping's shop while they waited for their turn. The rules in themselves were strange, but they had to be obeyed. Some of the rules couldn't be broken, not even with money, such as line cutting or spot buying. The customers who were there to fetch their pets were delighted to follow Tang Ruyan's cue. All of them entered the shop and quickly greeted Suo Ping behind the counter. Suo Ping asked Joanna to take the pets out and give them back according to their names. They were in awe of Joanna, who was said to be at the Star State. She had made the captain of the city guards kneel the night before. Even the red-haired Star State guy behind her was acting quite obediently. It was then that the pet owners saw the red-haired young man on the couch. Their hearts began to race once they saw him idling on the couch. They had inferred Joanna's cultivation after noticing the captain of the city guard's behavior, but Suo Ping and the red-haired young man were undoubtedly Star State warriors. None of the customers who fetched their pets dared to test the training effect in Suo Ping's shop. They were intimidated by the powerhouses in the store. They simply said goodbye and went to the assessment shop across the street. The more prudent ones even went to the neighboring street for testing, lest Suo Ping became angry, thinking that they didn't trust him. "B-boss, I'm here to claim my pet." Cleo arrived with the pet redeeming crowd and looked around. Her pupils contracted when she saw Garland, then she quickly withdrew her gaze. She wouldn't no longer dare to behave as arrogantly as she used to on her prior visit to the store. "Name? Cleo." Cleo didn't know what to say. "The guy forgot my name after a single day?" No one with a star state level would have such a bad memory, unless he never planned to remember her name. Oh, your pet is receiving professional training. It's not over yet, said Suo Ping casually while looking at her. The answer was within Cleo's expectation. She nodded and replied, got it. She was mainly there to check up on Garland, so she simply turned around and left. Garland is safe, for now. Cleo had soon left and returned to her own assessment shop, ready to deliver the news back to her family. But then, exclamations burst out of the lobby right when she stepped into the shop. Cleo raised her head, and her pupils contracted. The test pillar at the center of the lobby was showing a Class A reading. Another Class A pet?